telling him after that happened?
I mean, first of all, it's happened to every great pass rusher. So it has happened to everyone. It's going to happen again, and that's just part of being a great player. It's also a sign of respect, that they're going to allocate somebody to, not run a route and chip him. So, it happens. And my, focus is on the totality of what's going on. He's had a lot of really good plays. That was one bad play. They happen. Move on. Keep it moving.
He didn't seem pleased that it was distributed to the world to take a look at it.
No, definitely not. I mean, he's a super competitive person, super competitive player. I mean, that's just how he's wired. So, that was just him being competitive, which is part of what makes him a great player. Again, to me, the whole body of work, he's done a lot of really good things. My focus is on the great plays that he's had, and there's been a lot of them. So keep it there as one bad play and move on.
Is it hard to go work with a 22-year-old and say that's a sign of respect versus because he's gonna get it, right?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, every great pass rusher, if you're getting chipped, that means you're a good player. So you have to expect it. You have to have a plan on how to combat it. And he does, and we do, and he will. I think he understands it. He's hyper aware. He knows what that means. I think he just was frustrated, rightfully so.
As a pass rusher, and what specifically makes him unique?
I would say he has a combination. All of his traits are at a very good to elite level. Is he 6'5" with 35-inch arms? He's not. He's 6'3", 33 and change. Other than that, his power, his movement, his bend, his twitch, his awareness, his natural feel, all of that physically is at an incredibly high level. So that stands out. But the most important thing that he has that the great ones do is his natural feel for pass rush. I mean, sometimes you're at a stalemate position and you're working a body or you're working an edge move and it's not a clean win and you just got to escape and get off and throw a wrist or duck underneath or pry through a crease, and it's hard to really put a finger on what that is at that time. The great ones can just feel it, and he has that.
Has his presence bolstered the confidence of the pass rush guys?
Yeah, I think so as a group. He's another great player who's super confident, who's good. So, in nature, that elevates everyone around him, I'd say for sure. Anytime you add a good player to any mix, it should elevate the people around him, and it has.
Burns talked about talking to Dax and taking pieces from his game. I guess what you've seen from him this summer.
Burns?
Yeah.
Yeah, Burns. He's had one of the most focused, intentional, locked in, and consistent off seasons that I've seen. And that just goes back to we started those conversations in January when our season ended a year ago, and and then the subsequent months after that, just talking through the off season, as a coach and him as a player, just kind of looking at his game 6 years in and where it had been, and from my vantage point, I just look back at the good stuff that he had done, and there's plenty of it, but I also see, or at least I saw at the time, some areas that can improve and just make his game that much better. So we've had a lot of conversations going back to then, and even when he got here in April, we've watched a ton of film and kind of identified those areas and tried our best to identify a roadmap to him having the best season he's had yet. And, he's just completely embraced it. And for him in year 7, after having gotten paid, just watching him approach it, it's one of the coolest things I've seen from a player in an off season since I've been around this league.
How about Kayvon? What have you noticed about him this year?
Very similar. Kayvon's been locked in, and again, it goes back to the offseason. Our conversations at the starting point of those conversations in the offseason centered around him being consistent, just playing consistently. And then he took it and looked at his body and really dove into the numbers. What were his body weights in certain weeks of the year, in last year and years past, and where he feels comfortable playing. So he transformed his body before he even showed up in April, which propelled him, to be able to work to the levels that he's been working at. And but I felt that last year from Kayvon, his lock-in, his buy-in, his urgency and energy. And, and I think Kayvon had a good year last year. Did he have 10-plus sacks? He didn't. He missed time, but he won a lot more one-on-ones than he did, the previous 2 years of his career. And as a rusher and did some good things in the run game. And so, I think Kayvon took strides a year ago, and this is just a continuation of him trying to elevate his game.
Well, physically, how has he been elevating himself?
He's moving better. He's a little bit lighter than he was a year ago. Kayvon's a naturally strong guy. So, anytime you have guys, in my opinion, who are functionally strong and can set edges and rush with power, if they can gain mobility from being a little bit lighter, I'm always in favor of that. He embraced that, and again, he got into the numbers with our nutritionists and strength staff, and they've identified kind of that sweet spot for him to play at. But he's been like all in and consistent with it, pursuing greatness. Consistency is part of it. That's the challenge. That's the sauce, and that's what has just been so impressive to me about these two veteran players. Is they're in year 4 and 7 in their careers, and they're attacking it like they never have before. It's awesome as a coach to see it.
Charlie, on Abdul's run defense,
Yeah.
where do you see him excelling there? What do you need him to work on as far as edge setting and
Just consistent technique in setting edges and knowing where to fight pressure, when you can fall off inside, when you got to stay on the edge, when you can keep knocking it up the field. So there were a couple the other night that can be better, but I thought he was good against Buffalo. He's been physical, taking on pullers and tight end. He took on the pullers the other night and went and physically took out 2 of them. He's a physical player. It's just, he's only played the position 1 year before he got here. So he's still learning and developing, and it takes time. He's young and he's been working at it, but he's been playing hard and he's physical. So, the mastery of the technique will take some time, but he's been willing the entire time he's been here. So it'll improve when it improves.
How are his recognition of what's coming? It seems like as a rookie that you just haven't seen everything, right? So
I think his recognition is actually really good. I think where he can improve is just once he's engaged in the block, just kind of knowing, where to keep pressing and fighting pressure and when to fall off inside or stay on the edge, that type of thing.
Got it.
But in terms of like diagnosing the plays and his response, I think that's actually in a good spot.
How do you approach? He's only haven't played this position for a year. I guess you're trying to get him ready for gameplay, but also keep perfecting that spot. Is what you're doing a bit differently with him to do that.
Yeah, I think just being mindful of what he is good at right now. He hasn't been playing it for he's only been playing it for a year, which is what it is. But he's still so gifted that he does some things really well. So focus on that, identify that, but push him in the areas that he needs to improve on. And at some point in time, when we're game planning and trying to win games and we get into the season, we're going to have to identify exactly what the sweet spot is for him and what he can do where it's not too much, but it's manageable for him to play fast and do what he does, well naturally. Right now in training camp, we're still pushing. So we're intentionally putting a lot on his plate and, pushing him and forcing him to grow and adapt and learn and all those things. But at the same time, it's a lot. It's a lot for anyone, and it's a lot for a rookie. So at some point in time, we'll dial it back. But right now, we're still pushing.
How's he handling that load?
Great. He's a worker, and he wants to be great. Just like everybody in the room, just their willingness to approach and attack greatness it's off the charts. And as a coach, it's fun to be around.
How do you have Chauncey who came here and
Yeah.
you rewind the tape and you go back and when he came in it was almost like, okay, he's going to have a big role here back in March, and then we all know what happened in the draft. And so for a guy to be your technically in our eyes a fourth edge guy, how do you coach him and how do you make sure that he's engaged when he's not necessarily getting the reps with the frontline guys?
Yeah, I think the same. Coach them all the same. Demand the standard, teach the same, prepare them, for all the same roles. He can rush inside, so him and Abdul have some dual learning with interior rushing and rushing on the edge. And again, at some point, we'll identify exactly how we got to deploy these guys, and we can, maybe right now it seems like Chauncey won't have opportunities, but when we get into the specifics of the season, that's when those opportunities get clearly identified, and those roles will become a little bit more apparent. But he's such a worker. He's such a play style, hard playing, tough guy that he's working every day. And we tell young, guys at the bottom of the roster is just trying to make the team. But there's an old adage in football: don't get into the numbers, don't count numbers, don't try to project who's going to make it. Just play football, and everything works out. So we had a great player in Abdul, and perceivably there's going to be limited opportunities or less for other people, but we don't know where that's going to come. You know, so right now everyone's pushing and working, and where that all gets to will remain to be seen. But for now, coaching them all the same, approaching it the same.
I mean, it says a lot for your room, right, as far as the depth goes, where you have your frontline guys, you're bringing Abdul along, and then a guy like Chauncey, who was a starter last year in Dallas, is essentially your fourth guy saying, hey, when am I going to get a turn, that kind of thing. I mean, that says something about you and what you've got to deploy at this point.
No doubt. I mean, that's a luxury as a coach to have your four-person rotation as deep as that is. I mean, that's incredible. So, you know, good players, that's what you want, you know, and those are good problems to have. And, you know, if we can take a couple snaps off Burns and KT and keep them fresh and give Chauncey more and give Abdul more, then that's a benefit as well. You know, if Burns can be even a hair better at a handful of snaps less a game, that's a good thing too. And Chauncey allows us to do that, while Chauncey also is positively impacting the game because he's a good player.
Are Burns and Thibodeaux looking forward to being maybe fresher late in games because they have a few fewer snaps, or no, because they want to be on the reality?
No, I think they like the idea of being fresh, but no one wants to relinquish reps or opportunities right now. So
yeah,
I think the reality of the season will have to, you know, take place before that, you know, before they fully embrace it. But yeah, fresh. Everyone wants to be fresh at the end of the game, and they understand that.
On Chauncey, why did he play like all the way through to the end of the last game? I mean, is that a reflection on you want to see more out of him, or no?
No, I mean, Chauncey didn't play in the first game, you know, so we wanted to get him a little extended, you know, play time
snaps
in that game. So that, and then just numbers-wise, you know, once we shut those other guys down, just to kind of give Kavon and Trace a break. And last week we threw Elijah Garcia out there, so you know, that was the reason why. Just trying to get his total body of work up to where it was without playing in week 1.
Got it.
You know.
Thank you.
All right. Yep.
Charlie, you're gonna get used to this.
Oh yeah.
Season, like, no problem. 16 people around
Hey,
you.
good players, man. Let's go. You know.